Welcome to U.S. Defense Line Channel. Chechen leader Kadyr0v's soldiers suffer great losses. Ukraine is proving its success to the whole world by coping with every army that comes up against it. Chechen soldiers, who were constantly looking for a place to escape, could not escape this time. Soldiers that Kadyr0v sends to the hot front lines are forced to face defeats. According to the breaking news, Kadyr0v's soldiers on the Mariupol, Donetsk highway were in the middle of the conflict and suffered serious losses of military resources and equipment. At least 10 pieces of military equipment of the raided Chechen soldiers were destroyed as a result of the critical moves of the Ukrainian troops. Moreover, the casualties are not only Chechen soldiers. Explosion sounds echoed from Russian military equipment on the fronts. According to the recent developments, the Ukrainian armed forces destroyed 45 cruise missiles, 2 artillery systems, 12 tanks, and 16 armored combat vehicles of the Russian forces in a very short time. Ukrainian territory is filled with pieces of equipment from Russian troops. This proves the outstanding success of the Ukrainian troops. It is also noteworthy that the Ukrainian army coped with both Russian and Chechen soldiers, enabling them to face serious defeats. It is also seen that the Chechen leader is trying to maintain good relations with Russian President Putin. However, in recent days, Kadyr0v has made serious criticisms of Russian soldiers and commanders. Kadyr0v, who was included in the military field of the Russian Federation, made heavy criticisms of the commanders who led the soldiers at the front after the great defeat of the Russian soldiers in the Lyman region. In fact, the commanders criticized by the Chechen leader were dismissed with sudden decisions. Upon this, Kadyr0v, who found the right to criticize, made serious criticisms of the Russian soldiers who were mobilized on the fronts. It is known that the last mobilized soldiers were sent with very inadequate equipment and incomplete training. Despite this, the Chechen leader told these underprivileged Russian soldiers to stop complaining and fight by confiscating the equipment of the Ukrainian troops. This got a lot of backlash. Tensions may arise between the Russian and Chechen leaders at any moment. Although the Chechen leader made these heavy criticisms against the Russian soldiers, his own soldiers could not achieve success either. With each passing day, Chechen soldiers also face great defeats. It is also known that Russia recently announced the end of partial mobilization. However, the Chechen leader stated that the mobilization in his region will continue. However, this situation can increase the chaos within the country at any time and lead to internal turmoil. Tensions will increase gradually in the Chechen region, where there has already been turmoil many times. Because, as is known, the Chechen leader's involvement in this war causes quite a reaction. Although it has nothing to do with the war, the greed for the war and the expectation of violence cause further reactions and are not approved. At the same time, it is known that the highway, which is located in the region where the developments took place, was used by these soldiers to carry military equipment recently. However, the soldiers, whose concerns increased after the Ukrainian move, will experience logistical difficulties. As can be seen from all these developments, it is seen that countries and leaders have a great influence on the course of the war. In addition, as it is known, critical mistakes made by countries can put diplomatic relations between countries at risk. Russia may cause the scope of the war to expand with its remarkable moves recently. Especially after Russia, which made erroneous moves towards border countries, many countries started to take measures. This time Norway took action. According to the statements, Norway will increase its preparations by raising the level of military alert in the country. According to the critical statements made, Norway is starting to take measures due to various uncertainties, even if there is no threat to the country at the moment. After these developments, it is seen that many countries will be ready against Russia's move that poses a possible risk, and Moscow's moves will be closely examined. If Russia wanted to expand the scope of the war could end badly for itself. Because, as it is known, there are strong alliance states such as the United States of America and NATO next to Ukraine. But besides Russia, there are few countries. This may cause the situation to continue more difficult for Russia if other countries are involved in the war. This war, which continues to be very difficult for Russia, is getting more and more difficult with each passing day. Despite Russia's failure in the war, Ukraine has been making successful progress lately. Despite the fact that Russian forces have more weapons and military power than Ukraine, Ukraine can increase its weapons while Russia is struggling in this regard. As it is known, as Russia fails, it increases its infrastructure attacks and makes nuclear threats. Moscow again did not surprise. He continues his nuclear threats, as he has done many times. But Russia is preparing its own end with these moves. Russia's careless statements may cause more countries to oppose it. New nuclear statements came from Moscow. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, stated that Ukraine's regaining control of its territory is a direct reason for Russia to use risky weapons. Medvedev had previously stated that he believed that if Russia launched such attacks on Ukraine, they would not have a problem and that NATO countries would not take any action for their own security. Such dangerous statements by Medvedev also increased bad impressions against Russia. After Medvedev's statement, the statement from Ukraine was not delayed. Alexei Danilov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, responded to Medvedev's statements, threatening to launch such an attack against Ukraine. Danilov emphasized that Russia's use of such risky weapons, or threatening to use them, will result in bad consequences for itself. Russia previously denied such reactionary statements, but it is not surprising that it continues with these statements again. Russia made a habit of making threats whenever it failed. Moreover, it is known that Medvedev, who made these controversial statements, was placed on the wanted list by Ukraine. If this name, whose name is written on the red list, steps on the territory of Ukraine, action can be taken for an investigation. At the same time, it is known that Russia could not renew its weapons in its pre-war capacity due to the sanctions and purchase weapons from countries where it would not normally purchase weapons. While Ukraine receives Western support, the number of countries that Russia receives support does not exceed the fingers of one hand. Iran is the most critical of the countries that support Russia. Iran's drones have been used extensively in attacks on Ukrainian soil for a long time. Although Iran has denied this arms supply many times, the White House and Ukraine are firm on this issue. Ukraine had warned Iran about this many times and made a statement, but despite this, it was said that this time Russia agreed with Iran for missiles along with unmanned aerial vehicles. It has been announced that Iran is preparing to send approximately 1,000 additional weapons, including various missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles, to Russia, and that the first part, consisting of over 200 unmanned aerial vehicles, will be sent in early November. An explanation came from Ukraine about where these missiles will be deployed. Ukrainian Air Force spokesperson Nuri Inat announced on November 1st that the Iranian-made missiles that Russia plans to buy from Iran will most likely be placed on Ukraine's northern border. Ukraine, emphasizing the impact of Iran's aid to Russia on Ukrainian soil, asked Western countries to impose sanctions on Iran. Ukraine wants Iran to experience the consequences of its arms supply to Russia. Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the presidential office of Ukraine, asked Western countries to recognize Iran as an accomplice in Russia's aggression. Podolyak explained that while Iran is supplying missiles to Russia, Russia knows that it will use these missiles to attack Ukraine's infrastructure and that it creates significant problems. This leads to the deterioration of Ukraine's diplomatic relations with Iran. At the same time, although Iran provides unmanned aerial vehicles to Russia, these aircraft cannot achieve success in the skies of Ukraine. One of the reasons for this is that these aircraft are produced for countries that cover their production purposes. In other words, these unmanned aerial vehicles have difficulties in adapting to the geographical structure of Ukraine. Moreover, in this process, Ukrainian air defense units also figured out how to destroy these unmanned aerial vehicles. All this ensures that these drones are not allowed in the Ukrainian skies. This renders Russia's efforts in vain. As Russia's moves become increasingly difficult over time, it will weaken its operational power. This causes the Russian troops to have more and more difficulties on the fronts. Losses that follow also become inevitable. In the following process, each move has become more critical than the previous one. It is of great importance that both countries do not make mistakes in the later days of the war. If one party makes a mistake, the other party can take advantage of that mistake. In these days when the violence of the war is increasing, every step should be taken carefully. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.